Hey guys, we try to keep the Chicks in Charge free for everybody. The one thing that we do ask, though, is that if you get any value out of our episodes or any of the content that we produce on social media, please share with a friend, share the show, please leave a rating for future listeners, and that way we can try to keep this free of ads and any subscription costs that you might have.
Hey.
Welcome
Thank you.
back.
Thank you for tuning in again this week. I am Jess.
I'm Shasta.
And we're the Chicks in Charge, and we are so excited to bring you Kathy Gilbert as our special guest this week. Kathy is with CDK Global.
Hello.
Welcome, Kathy. How are you today?
I'm doing well. How are you ladies?
So good.
We are doing well, too. It's been a busy week. It is hump day, finally. It's Wednesday, 2 days away from the weekend.
Yes. This week has gone by so fast so far.
The week?
I think
Yeah.
so.
I feel like it's gone by slow. I'm like,
See, that was me
holy
last week.
crap.
I kept thinking every day was Friday, even Monday. I was like, oh, it's Friday. I'm like, what? No, it's
No, I know, right?
Yep.
All right. So what's new in Kathy's world? Go ahead and tell our listeners who you're with. We know you're with CDK, but tell our listeners what CDK Global does and what you do for them.
So I am with CDK Global, and we are a software company. We provide computer systems to automobile dealers. And I am the senior director of minority dealer and women retail. And what that means is my job every day is supporting our minority dealer customers and our women retail customers. And when I talk about minority dealer, that is African American, Asian American, Native American, and Hispanic. And there's about 1,400 minority owned stores across the US.
Wow.
When we talk about women from the context of women that own their own stores, as well as women that influence the decision maker. So there's about 1,900 across that we look at. About 1,000 of them are women-owned stores. And when we talk about women of influence, think of the mother, the daughter, the sister, the mom that helps support the dealer and to help make that business a success. So my job on a day-to-day basis is to advocate for both women and minorities, regardless of where they are in their journey, their purchase journey with us, whether they're a new customer, whether they're a prospect, or whether they're an existing customer and we're supporting. So any way that I can support our minority dealers or our women retailers, that's what I do. That's what I live for.
That's awesome.
That is so cool. And I don't think that I've ever heard of another company that has that role.
Yeah.
And I know that you've been with CDK for almost 30 years now. Did you help create that role? Did you implement this?
How did that come to be?
So when I started with then ADP, now CDK, when I started, the minority dealer associations were in the process of really looking at how do they grow the minority representation within their dealerships. And so we wanted to be a part of that. So at the time, as a company, we stood with those associations as they were supporting the dealers. So that's how we started it. I was definitely part of that. And I've been supporting the community, both communities for my time at CDK. July 5th will be 30 years with the organization.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it's
awesome.
fun ride.
That is amazing. 30 years is such a long time. What do you think? I mean, I'm sure there's a million that you could mention on the show, but what's the biggest change that you've seen in the organization since you've come on board?
I think the biggest change I've seen just within CDK is a focus toward being more of a SaaS company. So when you think about the amount of software and how software continues to change, the impact that technology has on our industry, CDK is really focused on putting together and modernizing the software and the solutions that we provide to our dealers. So from that perspective, I've seen the organization continue to thrive in terms of what we deliver for customers based on what has most impacted our industry and how our industry is changing. Think about AI, think about EV. But the other thing that I really admire about CDK is our focus on minorities and women, because the organization has put a concerted effort around making sure that we're supporting those communities. My team does that. And you see the change. Granted, I haven't seen in automotive the women and minority numbers and representation change as much as I'd like, but I have seen gradual change. And I think that gives us an opportunity to continue to grow the space, which is always
Absolutely. Yeah. So you're also, in case anybody doesn't know, you're also one of the original board members of Women in Automotive. Mm-hmm. How do you feel that your relationship and the things you've done with Women in Automotive has helped you in your career as well? What a great question.
So I'll tell you, I was one of the original founders of Women in Automotive. And if I go back 10 years, because we're celebrating our 10th year anniversary, if I go back 10 years, what I'll tell you is when I sat around the table with the other 6 of us that were part of the founding members, we looked at the industry at the time and started to see women that were all over, but they weren't really connected. And so many times I would go to a conference and I would see women from my local area. And it's like, wait a minute, why am I coming all the way to a Vegas or to a New Orleans to run into people from Chicago? And so we sat down and talked about how do you really build and advocate for women? And that's how we started the organization, was to make sure that we built a community for women so that they knew there were other women in the industry, because at the time, you didn't really know that we were out there. And there was a high turnover of women because they came in, and the culture in a lot of the dealerships and the organizations were a little different than they are today.
Right.
So women didn't necessarily feel represented. They didn't feel valued. And granted, we still have a long way to go. So I'm not by any stretch of the imagination saying we've done, hey, great job, right? But what I am saying is that if I look back over my time, I've seen growth. I've seen more women coming into our industry and staying.
Yep.
I've seen more women giving back. And I'm a big supporter of mentoring. And that's one of the things I really love about Women in Automotive. They are all about how do we help other women find their spot, find their space and their voice in our industry. And so I'm just excited about it. Our conference is coming up next week.
Yes.
Actually, what is it? 2 weeks now, May 15th.
Yep. May 15th.
And we'll be in Colorado Springs. And I think it's a great opportunity. Last year we had, almost 300 people in attendance. And the benefit of it is not just the great speakers, and I know we'll talk about that a little bit, but the great speakers that you have, the networking that goes on, and it's an opportunity for women, especially those that are new in the industry, to really see women. I mean, I can't even tell you the first time I walked into a conference and I saw the majority women versus, what we normally see, where it's majority men in an automotive conference. It did my heart great, because you want to see people that look like you.
Yep.
And you want to be able to hear that they're doing great things. And I think Women in Automotive allows us to do that.
I think that's super cool. So talking about Women in Automotive and the conference coming up, Kathy, go ahead and tell our listeners where the conference is going to be held at.
So we will be in Colorado Springs at the Cheyenne Resort. And we're looking forward to it. It's a beautiful property. And there we have right now, I want to say close to 40 vendors that'll be there. So a great opportunity to connect with other providers in the industry. But the big benefit is just the networking that occurs, the opportunity to connect with some leaders and very influential women in our industry, and to be able to kind of hobnob with them for, a couple of days and learn from them.
Right.
That's a great opportunity for us as well.
Oh, definitely.
That's awesome. And we're going to be at that. And we're super excited to be there. We're covering the media of the event, and we are so excited. This is actually my first, I'm embarrassed to say this, but my first Women in Automotive conference. I would have been to the past ones, but COVID kind of took that away for a little bit. So I didn't get to. And I'm so excited to go to my first one. Shasta's been to many, and I know that, and Robin's been to all of them, but I'm super excited about it. I'm super excited for the experience. And then it was even better just to be invited to be the media for the event. That was huge for us. And we're super excited about that.
Well, we know that you ladies do a wonderful job. And we know that you're kind of the voice of our industry right now for a lot of our young ladies coming in. And so I'm glad that you're going to be there to help us to promote as well as to support the women that'll be attending.
Absolutely. And it's always a pleasure to work alongside you and Veronica and the rest of the board. I mean, you guys are amazing, and probably I can say definitely somebody that we look up to, people that we look up to and really use as, you know, a shoulder, whether it's just for advice or to pick your brain. And you guys are always so willing. Like there's never a second thought. It's just, yep, we can get on a call right now. Yep. Give me tomorrow. Give me a couple times tomorrow that you're available. There's never a second thought as to whether or not I can pick up the phone and call Kathy, call Veronica, call Bobby, and know that you guys are going to, one, take my call, and two, be happy to talk to me and want to help me. And it's just so refreshing to have that network. And it's so important for other women, especially just now coming into the industry, to have that same network and have those people that they can rely on. I remember whenever we first got started and we didn't have that. We didn't have that network. And it was so hard to find anybody that would help pull us up. And it's just, it means so much to both of us that we have that in you guys.
Well, and it helps. Go ahead.
No, please.
No, it helps us be able to remember to be that for other women too.
Absolutely.
As they come into the industry, and you know what's crazy is it's not even women, but that even men. Like I think I have more men that reach out to me for help on things or advice on things. And, you know, I don't know that I even realize it sometimes, like how big of a deal that is, but 10, 15 years ago, that probably would have never happened.
No. And I, you know, two things I'll say. One is that it is so important for me because as I've been to every one of our conferences over the last 10 years, to have young ladies that come back and say, I can't tell you how impactful that conference was for me. You got me out of my comfort zone. I was able to kind of talk and network and meet people. And so that is a big deal. And I love it when women reach back out and share their story about, hey, I had an aha moment, or, you know, I stepped into this new role because of something I heard or someone I talked to at Women in Automotive. And the other thing I'll say regarding men in our industry, I will tell you that some of our biggest supporters are men.
They are.
Because they realize we can't change this narrative. We can't do it different if we don't have men that are stepping in and supporting and being the ally. So I talk to a lot of different groups. I do a lot of presentations. And one of the things I always share with men is I say, you know, Women in Automotive, and to me, all women organizations is about the women, but it's also about the men that love women.
Absolutely.
If you love women, then you're going to do what you can to make this a more welcoming industry for women. And you know, a lot of the dealers I talk to, they're looking at how do they do that within their own dealerships, the companies, how do they do it within the companies? And we're glad to be a part of that.
100%.
Absolutely.
It's you know, when I first came into this business, and even, okay, maybe not when I first came into it, but the last several years, I think that, you know, maybe just because there's more of a majority of them, but for the longest time, my network was so much on the heavier side of men. But they were full supportive. Like they, wanted to see us succeed. What can I do to help you? I mean, I have some of the greatest friends in this business that are men. And the more that we have done this show and been involved with Women in Automotive, you know, we did the social in March in Kansas City. And ever since doing those things, that other side of that is starting to fill up, and our support group of women is getting bigger. And it's crazy because the more involved that we get, the more that we network with other women, the more that's just going to keep growing. And it's the same way with other women out there. The more that you connect and grow with other women, the more that your circle is going to grow too.
For sure. I think that it's really cool for us that going into this conference, we have had women that are coming into the automotive industry that have seen us share the post for Women in Automotive that have reached out to us and said, hey, are you guys going to be at the conference? I want to go, but I don't know anybody else. And I know that you guys will be, I can be safe in your presence and you guys will just help us. And we're like, yes, like absolutely. Hang out with us, hang out over by the podcast booth, whatever you need to do. We'll make your introductions for you. We'll help you get out there. And I think that's really cool that there's other people who would normally not go to these events that are like, well, maybe I'll go now because they're going because they recognize us as a safe place for them. And I haven't always been super outgoing. I haven't always been the person that would go out of my way to introduce myself to somebody. And so I know how that feels and being stuck in that shell, and you want to so bad. And if it wasn't for Subi at Used Car Week dragging us over to the table of all of the ladies that were on that panel, I mean, we made so many amazing connections from that one thing that Subi did for us.
Yeah.
And I knew that she knew how big it was. We didn't know how big it was whenever she was doing it.
Yeah.
And Subi is a great example of that. Yes.
Absolutely.
She's an automotive matchmaker.
Oh yeah, for sure.
I don't know that she's ever gotten that title, but I'm dubbing her with it now.
You know what? And we might continue to use it because I will tell you, and Subi will be one of our keynote speakers at Women in Automotive.
I love that. I love it.
She is a big advocate. She was part of the original kind of founding board members. And it was so, for me, when I think about Subi and just watching all the things she's doing in the industry, it's a sign to me of how getting women together, sharing ideas, learning from each other, growing from each other, and building confidence.
Absolutely.
That's what you're talking about. And that's what you ladies are doing as well, because there are women that look at you and you're exactly right. They see the example that you said of speaking up and speaking out. And that's just so important. So yeah. Congratulations and kudos to you as well.
Thank you. Yeah.
It's funny, Subi, if we ever can nail her down for an episode, I'll share the whole story. But Subi is probably such a huge part of our success and our connections. I
don't even know if she knows it.
She doesn't. She probably doesn't realize how significant it is, because that's what she does. I mean, she introduces you, she connects people, she shares ideas. Hey, Kathy, I hear CDK is doing X, Y, and Z. You might want to think about this. And so there's a lot of benefit there. And that's what, when you think about women that are really empowering and wanting to help other women, it comes natural. So it's very cool.
So one of the things that I heard while we were at the social in March from a gentleman who went was, it wasn't the conversation I thought it was that it was going to be, which was, bashing
almost.
We have to elevate over men and we have to be better than men or something like that. That's the expected conversation that they think is happening when a group of women come together to talk about the automotive industry. How do we help change that narrative?
Well, what I would just say is every man that has any kind of thought about what goes on at a women's conference should come to Women in Automotive.
I was going to say this. I'm like,
that was find out. Tough answer, right? But I would tell you that women recognize we're in an underrepresented industry.
Absolutely.
And so the conversation isn't about bashing men. It's about how can we partner and ally with men so that they can help us, right? Because if you look at those that are in leadership, women still hold a low percentage in leadership within our industry. Well, the leaders are the ones that make the decisions about who to hire and what opportunities are presented. So if you're not really kind of talking about how do we build a better relationship with men, then we're losing. And so that's not our goal. Our goal is to elevate women that are participating and sharing with us at the conferences and at our meetings, but it's also to invite more men. I mean, we want men to be at our events because to me, it's more about the education. I don't think men, to your point, they have an expectation of what happens at our conference, but the reality is totally different. It's more uplifting, is more energized in terms of what can we do to continue to advocate and grow the number of women in our space. It isn't about bashing men because, again, we need men if we're going to change the narrative and grow the space.
Yeah. And I think back at the luncheon that, Shasta just mentioned, this gentleman was at the Women in Automotive luncheon. He took the time to see what this was about. And the message that we had there, I'm trying to think of Ashley's keynote, Choosing Joy. The Choosing Joy message and gratitude that was conveyed was not just for women.
Right.
That message was not just for us. That message was for everybody. Just because we had the idea to bring it to this event, those men got the same thing out of the event that the women did.
Yeah.
Oh, and I would tell you that is a large part of what we present and how we frame the speakers that are going to be at the conference. But the other thing I'll tell you is there is so much that happens and women look at it differently. I talked to a dealer a couple of days ago and he had me laughing because he says, well, women listen and women do it better. And I'm like, well, I won't necessarily say we do it better, but I do say women have a different approach in terms of how they respond, how they answer, how they address certain things. And therefore, it's good to have those diverse perspectives. The more we get them, the better our industry is going to be. And so I am always pushing for, how do we make sure we have the right voices? And how do we make sure that the voice isn't just about Kathy and about women, but it's about how can we help our businesses grow? How can we help the companies that we support? How can we help this industry advance? And that's a bigger conversation, and we need everybody in that conversation.
I agree. Kathy, if you could give one piece of advice to anybody up and coming in the industry, not a man, not a woman, anybody in general, whether they're in service, sales, warranty, or a vendor or on the vendor side, what would it be?
The piece of advice I give often is to build and leverage your network. There's so many people out there. And if there are times where you have questions and you want to be able to reach out and talk to someone, maybe that's outside of your organization, to get a different perspective or a non-company perspective. If you want to be able to, hey, I'm an entrepreneur, I want to start my own business. Who do I talk to? Who's done that already, that can share with me some of the obstacles that they had to overcome or some of the things they had to think about? So the first would be to just build and leverage your network, and that includes men and women. The other advice I would give is to educate yourself, because so many times we look at a situation, we look at a person, and we make our own, because of our own internal bias, we make our own assumption about what's going on over there. Right. Well, you know what? Go over and find out, or ask someone that can give you kind of the answer to the question, so that we can educate ourselves and keep learning. And I believe a lot of our dealers, at least the ones I talk to, don't really understand that in order for them to sustain their business, they have to look at women. They have to look at minorities. They got to look at a different talent pool, because our world is changing. So make sure that you kind of avail yourselves of all of the resources that are available to you.
100%.
Absolutely.
Go ahead.
We do that all the time.
So I think that, especially when you say educate yourself, I think a lot of people sit back and wait for managers to bring them training, or, tell them what the next thing that they need to do is to be better at their job, or force them to sit in the OEM training if they're a salesperson and I have to learn this, instead of going out and educating themselves. Like, you can get just the same knowledge that the OEM training is going to give you if you just go sit in a car for a few hours.
We have to always be learning. And that was one of the things my mother used to always say, always be learning, right? Learn something different, learn a new skill, talk to someone differently, get a different perspective. But as long as you're open to learning, then you'll find out that training, yes, we all have to do it. Companies require you to go through training. So they want you to know how to use the products and services that they sell and they provide. But there's also so much other training out there. I talk a lot about imposter syndrome or mentoring. How do I really step into leadership? Some of those topics, to your point, Shasta, there's data out there, there's training out there. And one of the benefits of women in automotive is that you got people out there. So if you want to talk, we can help connect you with ladies that are in your same area, ladies in your same industry that can help you. And we have men on our board as well. So it goes both ways in terms of women or men, but there's resources available to help us to all be better in our jobs and in our careers.
Well, and I think that one thing about women in automotive, I know that you're pointing out how you make women in automotive makes the connections to help you grow. But something that we don't think about a lot is that roadblock whenever you're first starting out, and that very first person you ask shuts you down.
Yeah.
They don't want to help, right? Or maybe they've got that scarcity mindset because in some sense of the word, you guys are competitors. All that does is make you not want to reach out to anybody else.
Yeah.
And so starting here, you have people that you already know want to help you.
Right.
Why not?
Yeah, that's so true. And you can't, they used to say try 3 times, right? So if you're trying to learn a new habit, you got to kind of keep working at it. And it's the same way. If you reach out to someone for whatever reason, they could just be having a bad day. But if you reach out to someone and they're not open to help you, then reach out to someone else. And I will tell you, you can always go to our website and, reach out to us. Because as women in this industry, one, that's my job every day to support women in our industry. But the other part of that is you have so many other women that once you get to a certain point, you're ready to get back. I mean, just looking at the two of you, I mean, you just celebrated a year and you're already saying, hey, look, we're here.
Yep.
How can we help you? What do we need to share with you? What kind of connections can we make? And I think that's where the beauty of what women do kind of shines, because we want to help each other. And you're going to find some there that, again, I'm having a bad day. Today's not a good day to talk to me, or maybe I'm really focused on myself and I'm not trying to help others. But that is, to me, more the exception versus the rule.
I agree.
100%.
I agree. So let's talk about some of the other speakers that are going to be at Women in Automotive Conference in
Maybe
May.
we haven't convinced somebody by now, which I doubt. But in case we haven't,
who else is going to be keynoting that event?
So we do have a couple that I'm just really excited about. One of them is, we already talked about Subi. So Subi will be one of our keynotes, which is great. But we also have Laura Murphy, who is with Google, and she's going to be doing a I Am Remarkable session.
Good.
I participated in one of those. We've done several over the years as part of Women in Automotive, but it's the opportunity for you to really look at yourself and determine, why am I remarkable, right? Maybe I'm a mom, maybe I'm a sister, maybe I'm a teacher, maybe I'm a leader. All of those reasons, there's so much about us. And as women, we tend to focus on others as opposed to focusing on ourselves.
We do.
So this is a great workshop where you get a chance to really look at you, what you bring, and then to put together your I Am Remarkable statement. So I think that's fantastic.
I love that.
We also have diversity. And we have a diversity panel with Jennifer Raphael and Sandra Liam. And the benefit of that session to me is diversity crosses everything that we do, because we're all diverse, right? Whether it's, where you come from in terms of, I grew up in the Midwest versus the East, what school you went to, what values you have, what did you learn from your parents? All of those things make us diverse. And to be able to talk about the value of diversity in our business and how we can leverage that to really be more successful, I think is powerful. And then the last one I'll share is a panel with Susan Burke, who's one of our board members. And I love Susan. If you haven't had a chance to hear her speak and hear her in terms of her team, but they're from 700 Credit, and they're going to be talking about the client experience. And when you think about our world today, right, especially in automotive, there's a big focus on that customer experience. I want to know that this dealership is thinking about me. I'm not just the number. I am a customer. They know Kathy. They know what Kathy wants. They know the last thing I bought when I came in. All of that. So understanding the real beauty of client experience and how we can make an impact on it, I think is going to be a great panel conversation.
That's awesome. Absolutely. So what are you most excited about for the event? Number one.
I would tell you, aside from the fact that it's our 10th year, I'm very excited about that. That says we've been around, there's staying power, and that means a lot. I'm most excited, I think, about the mentoring opportunity, because last year we gave away about 40 mentorship certificates.
Wow.
Compare a participant up with one of our mentors so that on a personal level, you have someone you can talk to, you can work with. And so I'm excited about that. The mentoring session is going to be held Thursday morning, and it's a two-hour session, but you're going to hear from several of our mentors, just kind of their little story. And then we'll do a speed networking where you get a chance to really hear from each of the mentors as we rotate the table. So I think it's going to be exciting. If I look at last year, there was so much positivity that came out of it. We had one young lady that came into the conference, and she was at the mentoring session at the beginning, and she was terrified because she had just kind of stepped into a new leadership role. She was still trying to figure out what that meant. And by the end of the conference, one of the things she shared with me is, I would like to be able to get up on stage like you and to share. So, of course, what do? We got her up on stage so she could share her story. And it brought us all to tears a little, because she talked about how monumental those 2 days were, from the time her and her two associates came into the conference to the time we were shutting down and closing the conference. It was just, it was magnetic. So I would say anyone that's still thinking about it, now is the time to step in, because you will be amazed at some of the people you meet, the conversations we'll have, and just all the learning and the fun that happens while we're there.
I love
Absolutely.
it. Just do it. Just go register right now. If you haven't already, go to the Women in Automotive website and register for this event, because you do not want to miss it.
And you get to hug us.
Yes!
And Kathy.
Yes! Lots of pictures.
All the selfies.
So excited. This is going to be a lot of fun.
It will be fun. And thank you so much for having me, ladies. This has been fun. And I know that you continue to be
Yes,
important.
thank you so much, Kathy. It's always such a pleasure to get to talk to you again. We've had so much fun working with you. I know how much fun we had for the Women in Automotive social that we did. And I think that was like 4 hours. I can't even imagine what 3 days is going to be like. And you didn't even get to be there.
You put so much work. No.
Well, it was an honor to be able to partner and set it up, but I had a work commitment, unfortunately.
I know, but it was a lot of fun.
Oh my goodness. And we had, what was it, like 70, 77, 75 people when we were planning 50. So it was
it was and we sold out like the week before we did it. I mean, it was amazing. And the very first one turned out phenomenal. So with that
doing the next one.
I know. So with that one going over so well and us having so much fun in that 4 hours, I can't even imagine what the 3 days is going to be like with everybody. It's going to be a blast.
It's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it.
We are too. All right, guys, without further ado, we'll go ahead and wrap up right now. In a world where you can be anything, remember to be kind, because you never know what battles others are facing out in the world. So whenever you go out in the world this week, remember to light it up. I'm Jess.
I'm Shasta.
And that's Kathy. And we've been the Chicks in Charge. Thanks so much, everybody, for tuning in.
Bye, everyone.
Yay, you've made it this far. And if you want to help the chicks out and add some value, make sure you subscribe right now.
Click that little red button down below. Do it. Do it now.